Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant and welcome to my Ironman Challenge episode 8. As you can see, I've finally managed to purchase a vulture using the rather strict rules as laid out below. But it took a bit of effort to get here. In fact, it's taken me a whole bunch of months. But things drastically changed with the release of the latest patch 1.4, making many aspects of the game a whole lot easier. But not easier in a bad sense, but easier in the sense that makes it much more fun, at least for me personally, and I've seen many comments around the internet saying much the same. Now at this point in the game I was just shy of 2 million credits, but would need a whole lot more to be able to afford the 5 million credits worth of vulture that I was aiming for. Now for those of you that don't know, just to reiterate and recap, the rules I'm following here is that I have to abide by a permadeath rule. If I lose the ship for any reason, if it's destroyed, I have to delete the save. This commander is Commander version 3, Commander Pompey III. The first 2 attempts didn't make it through the challenge. So this one has by far made it the furthest, and he did indeed complete the goal. So I'm going to detail exactly how that all played out in this video. And indeed, it turns out that there are now plenty of fun and interesting ways to make yourself a whole load of cash. This is a high intensity resource extraction site, so of course I do get some police assistance here. Now I just took down an anaconda with the help of the local authority forces here, and that was 90,000 credits. And accelerating up a bit here, another anaconda is just about to go out the window as well. Now 2 other very important rules here is that I cannot use shield cell banks for any reason, and I cannot repair my ship either. Although I have made one step up with the repairs in the previous video, repairing the ship for 36 credits, so that was a little bit frustrating at the time, but that's I guess just the way it worked out. Now I'm down to 78% on the shield here, on the hull rather, and well, I've decided to hang around for a little bit longer, get my shields recharged and to take the risk of continuing the fight. So I ended up spending quite a lot of time here. I didn't go to a hazardous extraction site, and I avoided the low intensity ones. The low intensity ones just didn't have the pace of combat that I was actually after. And for any of you that have visited the high intensity sites since the recent patch, you will have noticed that there is a heck of a lot of combat going on here. But on top of that, there's some rather dumb ship AI. Just watch what these two do. That's par for the course recently. And I've also seen more than one ship crash into an asteroid and destroy themselves. Now that said, the combat AI in general has improved itself a lot, so it makes those areas a bit more of a challenge, but they're also a lot more rewarding. Now here I am after spending about an hour or so, maybe an hour and a half in that high intensity extraction site. I've decided to come back and get my vouchers handed in and claim the money. I'm getting very close at this point to be able to afford the vulture, but I really didn't want to just buy a vulture and not be able to outfit it at all in any way. I think that would be cheating the idea of the challenge in a way. Ultimately, I want a vulture that I can go out and immediately use, so now I've got quite a bit more money, but still nowhere near enough for the vulture. That said, including the assets I've got on the Cobra here, I'm very close to the 5 million. I believe it was about 4.9 million in assets or so, so I could have probably just about made the vulture here, but like I said, I wanted to have enough spare. One, to be able to afford the rebuy cost, because once this challenge is complete, I won't be deleting the saves anymore. But at any rate, at this point, I'd had more than my fill of combat. I'd made more or less in my entire load of cash by combat, so I thought it was time to try something else. I went and outfitted a top spec jump drive and headed all the way out to Sothis, nearly 500 light years away from my previous location. Now some of you probably know what's going on here. There are a whole bunch of quality smuggling missions here. Just out here handing 2 of them in. These are going to give me around about 500,000 combined. They're worth about 250,000 each, and those smuggling missions are just a single jump away. It was from Sothis to the next system over. Now I've just got to get in here without being scanned. If I do get scanned, then I'm probably going to get fined, and I don't really want to get shot at either, so It's quite a risky thing to do, smuggling, but if you can get in fast enough, you can generally avoid being scanned. Now, from my understanding with patch 1.4, silent running, chaff and heat sinks no longer disrupt the scanning of the NPCs. They're all immune to that, so anything you try like that, they're still going to be able to scan you. So the only way to really get in now is to just burn in as fast as you possibly can. There is another note as well worth paying attention to, and that is that the NPCs can scan you when you're on the landing pads as well. I believe when you come in through the slots, it doesn't any longer break the line of sight. You can still be scanned, so you just have to get out the way before they actually try to scan you. And of course, that also applies to the outpost as well. As soon as you land there, it's a good idea to try and dock your ship, get underground into the hangar so that you can't be scanned. So here we go, here's some good money there. Now there's a very specific reason I come all the way out here to Sothis, and you can see that reason here. Look at the value of this mission, 3.1 million for a smuggling mission, and that's because that now with 1.4 the distance of the mission itself, the distance you've got to travel, factors in to the reward of the mission. So the further you've got to go, the more money you get. And Sothis being 500 light years away, if you're going to smuggle anything all the way back to regular space, to the central core inhabited systems, that is a long way to go. So we'll have a look here, see just how far they want me to carry these slaves, or whatever it actually was. So 420 light years, which is why the value of this mission is so much. Now, some people might claim that these missions are particularly easy, but I will let you know now that generally tends not to be the case. You run a very real risk of being interdicted over that distance, especially when you do multiple of those missions. Here I've got a whole bunch of cargo. I've taken on about 4 of the smuggling missions, which of course increases my chances of being interdicted by a factor of 4. It's quite common that almost as instant you jump into a system, within probably 10 to 15 seconds, way before you can get your jump drive charged up, you will get interdicted. So that's a risk over that distance, but I think it's a risk worth taking. And here you can see my total assets so far, 6.5 million I've got. And you probably saw in the repairs there, it's now at 1,000. I was so frustrated with myself, I clicked on the repair bill, repairing that 76% worth of hull damage that you saw earlier. But at this point I guess it doesn't matter too much, because effectively the challenge is near enough complete. I've got enough to buy the Vulture anyway, so I guess I could end the challenge right now if I really wanted to. So I guess at least I made it this far before I went and did that. But 1,000 credits isn't too much at the end of the day. Although that said, the whole intention was to always see the repair bill at 0 credits, as my trading is at 0 credits and the insurance claims are also at 0 credits. I guess that's just the way things go sometimes. At any rate, here I am on my way back to the core inhabited systems, about 400 light years to go. So I haven't been interdicted just yet, but there's plenty of time for that to happen, I guess. The total value for these missions should get me more than enough to buy the Vulture as well as fully outfit it, but we got a few jumps to cover. Here we go. Now, after a while, about halfway through the journey, the interdictions started. Most of these were by the military. You can see there's an authority vessel aware that I'm smuggling. They've been tipped off that I'm taking in some goods, I could call them, that I shouldn't be. Now, I was already halfway through charging up my jump drive to jump to the next system when I got interdicted, and I can't escape without getting out of this interdiction. So am I going to break away or not? It's a tough one, but yeah, I made it. And you may have noticed that interdictions have become significantly harder in the new patch, and that's because interdictions now factor in mass of your ship. So the heavier your ship, the harder it is to evade interdictions. And with the Cobra loaded up quite a bit here, almost maximum amount of its cargo hold, it's proving a little bit more difficult to escape the interdictions than I would have otherwise liked. Of course, if you come out here in an ASP, especially a T6 or a larger ship, you're going to find it even harder to evade the interdictions. So the small ships now have a huge bonus when trying to interdict these larger ships. And conversely, it's a lot harder for larger ships to interdict smaller ships because they have a much lower mass and have a lot easier job of trying to escape. And this effectively means that the big anacondas are not going to be able to keep interdicting sidewinders just for the hell of it anymore. At least that is my hope. So I'm all the way back here. This is the first station. I managed to avoid all the interdictions, thankfully, but now I've got to get into this station without being scanned. I've got a whole ton of illegal goods here, so I imagine if I do get scanned, the fine is going to be pretty hefty, and there's a chance that the station won't let me dock as well. So basically, as over in Sothis just now, I've got to get in here as fast as possible. Now I don't know, I can't remember what mission it was that I was handing in here. One of them was worth around about 1 million and the other one was worth 3.1 million, so hopefully this is the more valuable mission, but I have to wait until I land to find out. But I got in without being scanned. The authority vessels do seem to be a bit slow. It seemed to be, I won't say easy to evade the scanning, but as long as you're fast, as long as you can dock quickly, then you don't seem to have too much of a problem. Now I am going to go into the hangar here. I've just made that a habit from this point on, because getting scanned on a landing pad on outposts is not that good really, because you can't get out of it once you've been scanned. There's no way of evading it when you're just sitting there. So going in the hangar here, make sure that doesn't happen, although I'm sure it doesn't happen when we're in the stations here. So 3.2 million, that is a huge amount of money. You'd need a big trading ship and a brilliant trade run to make that sort of money, or you'd need to do a whole load of combat to achieve that sort of money. So whether or not Frontier are going to leave these sort of missions in the game or not, we're going to just have to wait and see. But in my opinion, it does make the game that bit more fun, as with the increased payouts in the bounties and the increased ships and activity in both the hazardous extraction sites as well as the nav beacons. It all, in my opinion, makes the game a lot more fun. And there's certainly a risk here to these missions, especially if you get interdicted by a wing of ships. You're not going to have a whole lot of chance of escaping once that actually happens, so your best bet is to try not get interdicted to start with. Although of course that isn't always an option. And the other challenge here is to just land as quickly as you can. Even on the outposts, there's police vessels floating around here from time to time, and they will shoot you. So I've comfortably got enough cash now for the Vulture, but I'm just going to finish these missions off so that I've got a nice little bit of extra. Now of course you don't have to go all the way over to Sothis to get these high paying missions. You can do it from fairly local stations as well. Like I say, it's the distance that factors into the amount of money you get paid. So if you don't go quite as far as Sothis, you can still find missions that will pay between 1 and 2 million, and obviously you can do them a lot faster, meaning that they're probably giving you equal amounts of cash. If you take on a few of these missions in one go, then that would also help as well. Now, all of this said, there does seem to be a little bit of controversy over this mission change, and well, I'm not sure what I personally think of that. I do know that I'm quite happy doing this, and it makes the game quite a bit more interesting for me. I do understand that some people have the fear of people burning through the game a little bit too fast, getting to what some perceive to be an end game in terms of what ship they're perched in, although I personally don't see the game as having an end game. At least it's not something I've ever aimed for achieving. But I guess if you play that way, I can understand why some people may be a bit concerned about that. The payouts for these missions are very high, and I'm sure if you put your mind to it, you could probably make yourself 100 million inside of a day, and that is perhaps a lot of going, and perhaps it's a bit too much. I can understand the concerns that people have that some players might be going from a Cobra to an Anaconda in just a few play sessions if they put their mind to it. After all, Elite is a game with long-term goals, so I guess we just have to see how it all plays out. Anyway, here I am now, 8.4 million, and I've got probably 2 more of these missions to hand in, so I'm probably going to end up on close to 11 million by the time I'm done. And then it's going to be time to go and get that Vulture. Right, the last mission then, and I've just got to get into here without being scanned. I'm not too concerned about that. For some reason I haven't even been attempted to be scanned yet, but that may just be because I tend to come in quite fast. After so much practice with docking, it's not really that difficult to pretty much burn into here at full speed, and even if I want, I've occasionally boosted in from around about this far but slowed right down at the rear end of the starport here. Okay, so landing pad, here we come. Now at the moment I haven't got any particular plans for the Vulture. Once I've actually got it, I will probably use it for some combat and just for some general messing around. I've still got my Clipper on the other account, and of course Commander Granite is out in deep space with his ASP, so those two things are going to keep me pretty much well occupied while I think of what I'm going to do with this account. But you know me, I always seem to find something to do, so it's certainly not going to go to waste, I would have thought. Right, so the bulletin board again. Let's get that last smuggling mission handed in. Can't remember how much this one was actually for. I think it was one of the lower value ones. 1 million. So again, a nice amount of money. 11.3 million with the assets tied up in this Cobra. I've got plenty of cash to be getting on with then. Let's just see if there's any other missions there, and there's not, so let's take one final look at the stats here before I progress to purchasing. So 15.9 million in assets, blooming 1,000 credits on repairs. That was meant to be 0, but I guess 1,000 is pretty low. 0 on insurance claims, a whole load of money made on combat. That is where I made the bulk of my money up until today. And we've got, I don't understand why only 15,000 or 13,000 there in smuggling, considering I've just done nearly 10 million's worth of smuggling, but I guess that stuff wasn't sold on the black market, so I guess that's why. And as you can see, I didn't trade a single thing, and neither did I do any mining. A little bit credits made on exploration though. So all of that without dying once, all of that with essentially doing no repairs and not using any shield cell banks. Pretty nice to get this far into the game with that way of playing, although I can't see myself trying that again anytime soon. It did take a little bit too long. Now there's not a Vulture here to buy, is there? I guess I'm going to have to head out to another system. I do know where there is a Vulture being for sale, and it's in a location where I know I'll be able to buy all the modules I actually want as well. So I'm going to go over here to Wolf 406, 136 light years. Right then, here at Wolf 406 is Vulture time. 4.9 million. I've gone and stripped down my Cobra, making the value of this ship in exchange just 4.5 million. And that's been quite a long time coming, to be honest. Quite a sum of cash to build up just on the sidelines like I've been doing. At any rate, here we are, finally got the Vulture. Great feeling to have it. So that brings this particular series to an end, and I've got to be perfectly honest, I'm quite pleased about that. It took a bit longer than I was hoping it to, but all said, it's a lovely looking ship and a lovely looking paint job, and I'll be using this ship and Commander for future series. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.